So this is 8 minutes to 7 GMT and 8 minutes to 8 in the morning local time in London on Tuesday, the 8th of September 2020. Now, this is the first edition or the first part of our world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street. Now, first with the Financial Times, London cash price £2.90, and they're leading with the picture of the Belarus musician and political activist Maria Kolesnikova, who has been disappeared, kidnapped, is the news. So that is what the Financial Times is leading picture-wise. And underneath that is the oven-ready Brexit deal that Boris Johnson signed, withdrawal deal, is no longer acceptable. That is the line, that is the actual connection with the story that they're running as the first lead. That Johnson is facing a warning from the chief EU negotiator on Brexit not to backtrack on Brexit divorce deal. EU trade talks depend on pledges signed. Number 10 tries to limit fallout from revelations. Now, the point is that this is not the first time that Boris Johnson has done this. This is not me giving an opinion. This is fact. Boris Johnson's personality, of which his father, Stanley Johnson, and his sister, Rachel, are on the record as having boasted very, very extensively that it is a special personality and he is imbued in the qualities that are worth noting. They were saying obviously positive things. But Boris Johnson's record, as objectively assessed and listed and accessible, is a record that is longer than Donald Trump's public record in terms of holding a so-called elected post and making this kind of, U-turn is not really appropriate. This kind of dishonest and untruthful and misleading, and what is most importantly, illegal, unlawful kind of statements and acts and doing acts that are contrary to the law. Even though philosophically we may have all kinds of opinions about the validity of a particular, legitimacy of a particular, or the goodness of a particular piece of legislation. But as the kind of generally things stand in terms of contracts, agreements, and treaties, this Boris Johnson warning is a serious item of evidence that Boris Johnson is not fit for the job, whatever the job is, whether it's the job of foreign secretary or the foreign minister. Internationally, the term would be foreign minister, or the mayor of London, where he did all kinds of things which are still under, many of which, let's say, are under investigation, and they can be traced or accessed by looking up Jennifer Arcuri. I mean, that is not the whole story, but Jennifer Arcuri, those two words contain a lot of links and linkages that can give an idea as to Boris Johnson's behavior. This is not some kind of joke thing. It is serious matter affecting people's lives and people's welfare. This is the item from the post that was received on Monday at this address, which is a resident at the address that I am at. And it says that this is an office for national statistics, and it's in league with the University of Oxford, and it's a survey. Participant information sheet for adults, including parents and carers, and adolescents 16 years and older. COVID-19 infection survey. So COVID-19 is very much infecting this country, and even departments like or agencies like the Office for National Statistics are taking this seriously. But that kind of seriousness cannot be found in the behavior of Boris Johnson, either about the ongoing pandemic or about the so-called oven-ready withdrawal agreement that he is now renouncing and saying he would walk out of and deny and disown. And there are, in the context of capitalist market kind of business, and it is coming from Tokyo, the Financial Times copy from Leo Lewis and Kana Inagaki, filing from Tokyo, it appears. So they're talking about SoftBank's value falling 8.9 billion as whale options bets unnerve retail investors. This is too complicated to go into in this kind of diagnosis of the media, but suffice to say that this is the evidence that comes up almost every marketing day about the robbery and takeover and hijacking of the stocks in the stock market. And that is the essential corruption of capitalism. I mean, the capitalism is so corrupt that even its exponent, Donald Trump, is now using the corruption of capitalism as part of his election strategy. Of course, he doesn't believe in end of war, but he's attacking, according to yesterday's news lines, the war causers and wars makers. Now, I have been saying that the world's hungriest and the starving people and the poverty-stricken people and other people seeking refuges in the West from Africa and Asia are doing so because they have been hit by wars that generate billions, trillions of dollars for the military industrial complex. And it is Trump that has been one of the beneficiaries of wars and war economies. And he has been one of the beneficiaries of the emotional leverage that is available, threatening wars and annihilation to Iran, for example. Now, he and Hillary Clinton, they are absolutely as one on that one. Their hostility to Iran. Hillary Clinton said she would be annihilating, bombing Iran out of existence if Iran didn't behave when she was in post as the US's foreign minister. And Trump has threatened so many times to annihilate Iran, annihilate North Korea, and all the other things. So it is important to note that these people have no basic control on what they say. And there is no accountability, and there is no forum, and there is no platform available to the people affected by them. The people is the whole world's population affected by this kind of behavior. And the Financial Times is talking about the rising tension, and it is saying that there will be war or wars that will be coming up because there is so much tension going on and conflicts are increasing and getting worse. So there is a suspicion that nuclear war is on the table, according to some people. So therefore, the fitness and unfitness for the job affects the lives of people, millions of people, and livelihoods of people, hundreds of millions of people, depending on what scale we are talking about and what kind of context. So this Financial Times on the front page, on the three main items of its feature-length discussion or features, on page 25 it is saying, no time for complacency as military conflicts rise. And the headline is nuclear option. It's a piece by Gideon Rahman on page 25 of the Financial Times. And as I said yesterday and had done before, the Financial Times is a misleading title and it's a pretension. There is not a tabloid in content and in editorial kind of dimensions. There is pretension, there is not a tabloid, is absolutely false because it doesn't actually examine. It doesn't examine the weakness that the tabloids actually perpetrate and depend on and trade on. Now, this is nuclear states engaged in a dangerous game. That's Gideon Rahman talking about nuclear states. And what he has to say, but doesn't say, I don't think, he's talking about China and India and the USA. So the China and India, the recent clashes, are mainly discussed there. But what he doesn't say, and what he should say, is the role of the United Nations and other international agencies that should be not just observing and watching the rhetoric from China and India and from Trump against China, backing India, but they should be actively discouraging them and stopping them from doing so. And the other nations, so-called, including the UK and the Security Council, should be held to account for allowing this to escalate to the point that it has escalated. And it is not good enough to say that this is dangerous. Of course, this is dangerous. The arsenal, the nuclear arsenal that exists in one country's possession is more than enough to destroy the whole planet. So it's not dangerous. That dangerousness is not the word. There has to be invented a new word to express the lethal kind of threat humanity and the planet face. And the Financial Times is saying that experts take comfort from the fact that India and China both have a no fast use policy. That's not good enough. No fast use policy may be there, but any person crazy enough under the moment's impulsion can undo all of that. So that's not the thing that can be relied on for the future of humanity and the planet. As I said, the United Nations must be put to work, and its agencies, and the other international agencies, and the other Security Council members as well. Now, the Financial Times' editorial is not about nuclear threat, but it is about the perils of Britain's Brexit brinkmanship. This is the same theme that it has been running for the last few days, and it is based on the actual facts and facts of what Boris Johnson and Cummings and others are doing to stage a stunt and disown the very withdrawal agreement that they manufactured and boasted and bragged about. So that is the detail is there. And the second editorial, the two editorial pieces on the Financial Times today is about the USA election that is coming. There is a letter from Professor of International and Environmental Law, David M. Ong, at the University of Nottingham, Trent University. And it's about nuclear energy. That's the aspect. And the letters also contain a letter from Darren Rodwell, Executive Member for Housing and Planning, London Councils. And its headline is London's housing crisis requires fresh thinking. And it is obviously responding to the item, England planning shake-up provides few affordable housing guarantees, published by the Financial Times on the 4th of September 2020. But in that letter, Darren Rodwell only repeats the slogan, which is, I suppose, summarized and contained in this paragraph. A massive concern for London boroughs, we face the most severe homelessness crisis in the country, with more than 58,000 London households living in temporary accommodation and 243,000 on council house waiting lists. Now, this is a letter that is against the current Conservative government's moves to deregulate the planning even further, and also the Conservative agenda to get rid of local councils altogether and to make elected mayors the norm. Now, none of the contents in the Financial Times' editorials or the copy reports, news reports, or opinion pieces has actually dealt with any of these crises in the sense that it hasn't actually looked at the evidence. It is a sloganized series of serial kind of claims about housing crisis, homelessness, overcrowding, and the rest of it, and the imminent end to the no eviction proceedings in the court. The eviction proceedings will start again in the last week of this month, September. There will be literally thousands of people evicted in the first go. And there is no sign either from the London councils, which is the collection of London councils, it's a kind of lobby body, or from individual councils, or from the opposition, Labour opposition, as to how these newly made homeless people would be protected and safeguarded and helped. There is nothing. So what we are witnessing and what we're waiting for, or what we are being made to wait for, in the absence of the opposition making any attempt to ban evictions altogether, not just temporary ban, but permanently ban evictions. The London Council is not saying that. They're not talking about that, but that is the first thing that has to be done in order to put an end to the mass conversion of people's housing crisis into totally lacking and unavailable housing. And that destroys lives. It destroys individuals, families, and children. And there is no outcry. It's a kind of attack that is being kind of managed and manipulated with the collusion of the Labour Party in Parliament. And the Fleet Street is not up to it. What I have said is not to be found anywhere, not even in the so-called Morning Star, the Communist Party's newspaper, the only English language left-wing daily in the world. Nothing there. And so, as we saw with the attacks on the migrants trying to cross the channel, English channel, French channel, whatever, is being repeated. The lack of hope, lack of help by the states to the citizens is being, to the citizens of the world, if you like. And here, in this case, the citizens of Britain most of the times. There are a very small number of people who are not British citizens who are homeless. And that is nothing to do with the fact that they don't have housing crisis. They have more than their indigenous native British national counterparts. But they dare not declare themselves as homeless in the numbers that the facts justify, because there is prejudice, rampant, brazen racist prejudice against people of African Asian backgrounds who are also in need of housing. And the fact that in some of the local councils, which are the ones that are supposed to deliver localized help and assistance to people facing housing, welfare, and mental health and social exclusion issues and needs. The fact that council like Tower Hamlets or council like Newham, these have got kind of fronts. Say in Newham, the front is this is the line in the Guardian and the Huffington Post and whatever, or politics home, that Rukhsana Fiaz, who is the elected mayor of Newham Council, is the daughter of a Pakistani bus person. I mean, this is ridiculous. They have hyped up Sadiq Khan as the son of a Pakistani bus conductor or bus driver. And they also, equally, they've hyped up Sajid Javid as the son of a Pakistani bus conductor or bus driver. These are completely racist and patronizing and matronizing in the political sense, that a woman, a racist woman who makes that kind of assertion, is matronizing, doing the counterpart or corresponding thing that a male patronizer does to the target of that patronizing. So they say that this Rukhsana Fiaz in Newham is one of the 3 children of Pakistani bus conductors and bus drivers. And this is something that is allegedly predicted and foretold by a person that they have hyped up as a thinking woman writing about Pakistanis in this country. These are totally irrelevant lines of promotions. Rukhsana Fiaz had no kind of inspiration about her father's being a bus driver or bus conductor in her politics. Whatever she had has not been of any relevance to the people voting for her, or the people that, since voting for her, have been let down by her and are being let down and lied to. So Roxana Fiaz is as unaccountable to the electorate as Sadiq Khan is as the mayor of all of London, and as Lutfur Rahman was in Tower Hamlets before he was ousted in April 2015 by the election commission person called Richard Morey, who claimed that Lutfur Rahman was guilty of corrupt practices. So what is happening in these councils and in the context of wider London mayoral powers is that the people's housing and other serious needs are not on the actual emergency list of activities and actions and priorities by either the London Assembly and or by the Neom Council or Tower Hamlets Council. Tower Hamlets Council now has been fronted by a non-Bangladeshi or non-Asian or non-black person, a white person called John Biggs. But it doesn't matter whether it's Biggs, it's a white person, or a non-white person. The post holders are totally, identically unaccountable to the electors and the communities. And there is no evidence in Newham or in Tower Hamlets or in London Assembly, that housing is being treated with the urgency that it needs at all levels. And all these mayors and all the councils are silent about the eviction. What they're saying, their mutterings, these are for public relations purposes to put themselves on the list of people uttering concerns. That is not the same thing as actually halting the evictions and stopping the lies and the lying that the councils are colluding with. Lies by the courts, lies by the applicants, and lies by the landlords, and lies by the others who have been like the Secretary of State or the Minister of Housing, Robert Jenrick, who has been lying since March. He keeps saying, extending this ban by a few days. He's tinkering, he's joking, he's actually mocking the victims and the wider democratic kind of population. And the newspapers are not at all saying what I'm saying, what they could have said, because that is fact. What I'm saying is fact, evidence, and warranted and urgently needed to be said. But the newspapers are not saying that, not even the Financial Times. Now, the Daily Mail is back on the question of Harry and Meghan leaving the UK, and they're using this Richard Kay as the gossip person, saying the 2.4 million check for Frogmore, one of the cottages that they were living in, shows that the Sussexes' divorce from Britain is final. So they have got an obsession. This is the obsession because this is something that the Daily Mail's readers must kind of need as a fill. And the Daily Mail's main piece on the front page is 3.5 billion pounds Fala farce. That's how much of your cash may have been lost in fraud and blunders. Now, why does the Daily Mail say that? Because the Daily Mail is part and parcel, party to the multi-trillion pound robbery and theft of the public purse by the big business and hedge funders and offshore kind of traders who treat Britain as an offshore kind of spot. And there are other pieces in the Daily Mail that are contradictory. And there is a professor, Regius Chair of Medicine at Oxford University, where he's saying that we must get Britain open again. He's saying that Britain urgently needs to shift its mindset from a terror of the COVID-19 virus to focus on the damage already done to our economy and the worst that is yet to come. The spike in infections reported in the past few days was to be expected as life slowly returns to our streets and workforce. Now, this is the kind of academic backing to Boris Johnson. That is the thing. The Daily Mail is very adept at hiding the connections. And this guy is saying, this Matt Hancock, who is supposed to be the health secretary, he's saying, don't kill granny. What that is that young persons are now getting infected and they're spreading the infection, and they're in danger of spreading the infection to older people, including the grandparents. And Boris Johnson is photographed in a spin picture of the schools back, but underneath that is the schools are out, that is dozens of heads sent people's home because it's not safe to have children back in schools. That is the truth, and that is something that no amount of hype is going to be able to suppress. And they're now doing a thing about this Extinction Rebellion. They're having a go again at the Extinction Rebellion, and they're using jihadi bride joins the eco mob, the ecology mob. Syrian mom in court over Extinction Rebellion's press stunt. And they're saying that jihadi bride, so they're desperate. There is no connection between jihad and the Extinction Rebellion, whatever jihad is, but they are able to use that to emotionally charge the people who are the anti-jihadists and the anti-protesters. And that was the main lead in the main right-wing Fleet Street outlets on Monday. They were going absolutely to town against the Extinction Rebellions, and they're calling them criminals, and they're calling for new laws against protests. So they're going to ban democratic, peaceful protests in this country. And they're saying that the Daily Mail, of course, is having a go at Michel Barnier. And this man, the one that is exiled in Florida, but pretends to be resident of North London, this Richard Littlejohn, is having a go at the black rights protesters, Black Lives Matter, and the anti-racist protesters. So this is the kind of criminality and packed corruption and lies that the Daily Mail is every day. And it is the second largest circulation quote read newspaper in Britain. After this come the dirty digger Rupert Murdoch's son. And there is a lying boost to the agenda to cause housing disparity. And this is a lie, because there is no way that people who need social housing can afford to buy their homes. So this is supporting the Tory agenda of creating housing shortages, housing disparity, and housing apartheid. And it goes on like that. All the prejudices, all the lies, and all the inventions are in the Daily Mail. Inventions of Boris Johnson and the right wing and the racists are dished out every day by the Daily Mail. And here is a celebration, and it also celebrates the beachiest and the most corrupt, fascistic, self-promoters like the wife of the convicted Conrad Black, Barbara Amil, and they're saying